The cost of always saying yes. You think being available makes you kind, makes you strong, makes you needed. You answer the texts. You show up. You listen when no one asks how you are. You make space. You make time. You make yourself invisible. Because deep down, you've been taught one thing, that love must be earned, that presence is proof of worth, that being there for others will make someone finally be there for you. But has it? You give, and they expect more. You stay, and they walk away. You apologize, and still, they're disappointed. And now you're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, the kind of tired that lives in your soul. Carl Jung believed that the parts of us that remain unconscious run our lives like invisible scripts. And for many of us, that script says, be available, be useful, be good, or be forgotten. So you say yes to plans you don't want, to people who drain you, to conversations that leave you feeling hollow. You say yes, not because you want to, but because you're afraid of what no might cost. Rejection, disapproval, loneliness. Because being wanted, even a little, feels better than being nothing. But here's what no one tells you. Being endlessly available doesn't make you lovable. It makes you replaceable. Because when you treat yourself like you don't matter, others believe you. This is why people start to talk over you, why they cancel plans and expect you to understand, why they only come close when they need something. You've trained them, not with words, but with your silence, with your presence, with your sacrifice. And now, you're empty, but you smile. You say you're okay, because being needed has become your identity. And without it, who are you? This is where it begins to shift, because something inside you is starting to whisper, maybe I don't want to be the one everyone counts on anymore. Maybe you're ready to count on yourself. Maybe you're ready to say no, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And when you do, everything changes, the wound that keeps you answering. You weren't born trying to please people. You weren't born afraid to say no. That was taught, carved into you in moments no one else even remembers. The first time you spoke up and were ignored. The first time you cried and someone rolled their eyes. The first time you needed someone and they didn't show up. That's when your nervous system made a decision. If I want love, I need to earn it. And so you started performing, not on a stage. In your life, you became helpful, pleasant, low maintenance, always available. Because somewhere along the way, you confused being wanted with being used. But Carl Jung warned us that when we don't face our wounds, we don't just carry them, we protect them. We build our whole personality around them. That's why you say yes when you mean no. Why you text back instantly, even when you're exhausted. Why your phone feels like a leash, and every notification feels like a test you're scared to fail. Because somewhere inside, you still believe your value depends on your availability, and it's not your fault. This is what survival looked like. Being nice kept you safe. Being useful kept you included. Being needed made you feel important. But now, it's killing you slowly. Because every yes you give when your body says no is a tiny betrayal. Every time you make space for someone who wouldn't do the same is a reminder. You don't matter here, and you feel it. In your jaw, your gut, the pressure in your chest when someone texts, "Can we talk?" Because you already know what's coming. They want something. They always do. And your role is to be there, not because they care, but because you always have been. So you show up, and each time you do, you disappear just a little more. But you don't have to. You can stop. You can unlearn this script and write a new one. But first, you have to understand something radical. You don't owe anyone your constant presence. Not even the people who once saved you. Not even the version of yourself that made it this far. Especially not them. The day you disappear, they finally see you. What happens when you stop showing up? When you don't text back right away? When you cancel? When you let the silence stretch and don't rush to fill it? At first, they'll panic. People who built comfort on your constant availability will feel entitled to your presence because you trained them that way, not through weakness, but through survival, through quiet patterns that said, if I'm always here, maybe someone will finally stay for me. But the truth, they didn't stay for you. They stayed for your asterisk access. And when you remove that, they don't just miss you, they question you, they resent you, because your absence holds up a mirror, and suddenly they have to face what they ignored, that you were the one who always reached out, the one who adjusted, apologized, bent. They called it connection, but it was compliance. Carl Jung taught that relationships often aren't built on mutual understanding, but on mutual unconscious needs. You needed to feel loved. They needed someone to center their world around. But now, you've broken the contract, and that scares them, because your silence means you're no longer performing. And when you stop performing, you become unpredictable. They'll call you cold, selfish, changed. But they don't see the version of you that gave too much, too long, too often, and finally had to stop before something inside you broke permanently. They don't know what it cost you to be available every time they needed comfort, attention, distraction, while you had no one to turn to, no one to say. You don't always have to be strong. You don't always have to be there. So now, you're becoming that person for yourself. And let me tell you, the moment you stop being available is the moment your real value becomes visible. Not because you're withholding, but because you're choosing to protect your peace, choosing to save your time, choosing to offer your energy where it's reciprocated, not drained. And that changes everything, because people don't value what's always there. They value what's felt, what's present when it means something, not when it's expected. So stop apologizing for your distance. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. You're not disappearing, you're finally appearing in your own life. If this feels familiar, if you've lived your life trying to be everywhere for everyone, then this isn't just a video, it's a wake-up. So before you scroll away, before life pulls you back into its noise, subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for you. Because this is where you start choosing yourself, consistently, quietly, powerfully. And if you're ready to keep walking this path, I'll be right here, waiting for you, not your availability. They don't miss you, they miss your compliance. The moment you begin to pull away, the people who once relied on your silence will suddenly find their voices. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, cold, unfair. They won't say it directly, not all of them. Some will guilt you with passivity. You never call anymore. I guess you're too busy now. Others will turn kind into cruel. I always thought you were the dependable one. You used to care. And maybe a part of you will feel guilty. Because when your identity has been built around being there for others, withdrawing even slightly feels like violence. But here's the truth. No one says out loud. They're not hurt because you're gone. They're hurt because they lost control. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And when you stop being available, you force them to face what they used to escape in your presence. Your availability gave them comfort, not because they valued you, but because they didn't have to face themselves. You were the buffer, the distraction, the safe space they never created within. So when you walk away, they aren't grieving you. They're grieving the version of themselves they got to avoid while you were around. This is why silence is powerful. It removes the echo chamber. It ends the performance. And it scares people because now their shadows get louder. They'll test you. They'll bait you with harmless check-ins. They'll use shared history as leverage. They'll send you memories, inside jokes, old photos, not because they care, but because they want to pull you back into the role that kept them comfortable. But here's what you must remember. You're not the same anymore. This version of you doesn't answer to guilt. doesn't overextend for nostalgia, doesn't mistake loyalty for self-abandonment. This version of you doesn't chase closeness that costs peace. And the people who truly love you, they'll adjust. They'll respect the space you take. They'll rise with you or fade quietly. But the ones who only loved your availability will fight your evolution. Let them misunderstand you. Let them label you. Let them mourn the version of you they used to benefit from. You're not here to be digestible. You're here to be whole. And sometimes being whole means being alone for a while, but never being empty again. You were never meant to save everyone. They told you that being good meant being there, no matter the hour, no matter the cost. So you showed up, even when you were tired, even when they didn't. You forgave, even when they didn't ask. You stayed, even when it broke you, because somewhere deep down, you believed that if you were reliable enough, kind enough, strong enough, they'd finally see your worth. But what if I told you that saving everyone was just another way of avoiding yourself? Carl Jung said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." And that burden doesn't vanish. You just inherit it. You become the fixer, the responsible one, the emotional airbag for everyone else's crash. You pride yourself on being unshakable, but deep down, you're exhausted. Not just physically, spiritually. Because every time you rescue someone, you abandon the part of you that still needs rescuing. You listen to everyone's crisis, but silence your own. You comfort them, but shame yourself for needing comfort. You give and give, hoping one day someone will give back with the same urgency. But they don't. And not because they're cruel, but because you never required it. You taught them you don't need, so they stopped offering. And now, you're left wondering, why am I always there for people who wouldn't do the same? Because you were never just being kind, you were bargaining, trading pieces of yourself for glimpses of connection. But real connection doesn't demand self-erasure. It doesn't require that you bleed to prove your worth. Here's the truth you've been avoiding. You were never meant to save everyone. You were meant to save yourself first. Because your worth isn't in how much you endure, it's in how deeply you honor your own limits. And yes, people will leave when you stop being their lifeboat. But the ones who stay, they'll meet you in the middle. They'll swim beside you, not on top of you. Let them go. Let the role go. Let the burden go. You don't need to fix what's never been yours to carry. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need permission to stop. This is not you giving up. This is you choosing you, maybe for the first time ever. And that changes everything. Your absence is a language. You think silence is empty, but it's not. It's full of everything you never said, everything you swallowed to keep the peace, everything you tolerated in the name of being there. Now, that silence is speaking, louder than your explanations ever could, because when you stop showing up, the world asks a question it never cared to before. Where did you go? And in that question is your power. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, requires withdrawing from the roles you never chose but learned to play. So now, you're retreating, not to hide, but to remember, to clear the noise and hear yourself again. It's disorienting at first. The phone doesn't buzz like it used to. The invitations slow down. Your calendar, once filled with other people's chaos, is suddenly quiet. And for a while, that quiet feels like punishment. But then, something shifts. You realize you're not missing out. You're not being erased. You're being reborn. You laugh at your own thoughts again. You walk slower. You sleep deeper. You stop reaching out to people who only responded to your need, never your presence. And those who never really saw you, they fade. Or worse, they get loud. They try to pull you back, with guilt, with nostalgia, with versions of you that no longer exist. But you're not going back, because now, your absence is a boundary. Your silence is a decision. Your space is sacred. You've spent years being there for people who didn't even notice you disappearing. Now, it's your turn to be here for you. No apologies, No announcements, no need for closure. You're not walking away to hurt anyone. You're walking away to stop hurting yourself. And when you do that, everything changes. You lose some people, you lose some habits, you even lose some parts of yourself. But what you gain? Peace, clarity, and the quiet, unshakable knowing that you don't have to be everywhere to matter, that being unavailable might be the most honest, most powerful, most loving thing you've ever done.